The Source Filmmaker, released by Valve, the game engine and animation studio, which has fueled countless animation projects, and indeed this entire channel. Abandoned for many years and never even taken out of beta, it has recently been recreated and released with the brand new Life Alyx. With the original being built on the original Source engine, the new version having been made on Source 2. But a question for you. Is the Source 2 Filmmaker right for you? Hopefully that's what we will be answering in the video today. But how do you get this new Source Filmmaker for yourself? I hear you cry, screaming from the belfry for the knowledge. Well, sadly, your only option is to go out and buy a copy of Life Alyx. It says you require a virtual reality headset and to play the game you do, but to use the animation engine, it's not necessary. Once you buy the software and run it through Steam, you'll be granted the choice of launching Life Alyx or launching the workshop tools. The path to the true salvation is to launch the workshop tools, and then you're presented with this box here. And simply you want to create a new add-on, name it whatever you want, it's not important right now, and launch the tools. And you'll be presented with the asset browser. One of the first things you see, and one of the definitely the biggest advantages the Source 2 Filmmaker has over the Source 1. The Source 1 Filmmaker's asset browser is kinda trash. It's not exactly that bad, but, well, for one thing you have to load in every single model every time you turn on or restart the software, which itself can take its toll on your time, since if you close this menu it stops loading in the models. So you just have to sit here and wait while it loads every single model in, which can take longer and longer depending on how many assets you have. Furthermore, you can only preview assets one single asset at a time. No more, no less. It also has the issue that any object with even just a partial transparency will be almost entirely invisible. It does have a mod filter which breaks down into whichever folders you have created in the folder paths of the game info file, which we'll mention again later. However, this doesn't exactly make it easier to navigate when you have thousands of models, even just in one single one of these mod filters. You have the text filter, which does work effectively, and yet if you type something, perhaps dispenser and level 2, you open that, whatever, and you come back and it only remembers the very first word you put in. It has only partial memory retention for what you're searching for. And you also lose your place. Let's say we're searching through a large number of things and we find a group of pipes we like the look of. Either we note down their specific name, or we just have to re-find the location, since when you reopen this tab it'll reset you back to the top. It also has the major downfall that every single model you open and preview just to look at adds more and more to your memory, which itself has a limit, as we'll come to. This also makes quickly previewing multiple objects difficult, since, well, you can see from here the lag it's experiencing. The asset browser in the Source 2 Filmmaker, however, it's a marvel. Just like before, you have the window on the side to preview the various objects that you want to look at, but more so than that, you can view, as you see, many models at once, and it updates them pretty quickly as you scroll down. This doesn't contribute to your cached files, so it doesn't mess up your save file with useless data. It has all of these custom folder sets which you create yourself and can easily add to or remove from by removing from working set or creating a new working set, or simply just dragging and dropping into whichever set you wish to see. Even includes a list of recently used assets and a set of filters to designate exactly what you're looking for. whether it be materials, models, maps, PNG files, whatever you're looking for. Now these assets also allow you to very easily drag and drop more than one object into your scene in the Source Filmmaker engine. And just like in the Source 1 Filmmaker, you can very easily preview various animations and sequences which are available for the model, giving it a fullness of capacity, with more features available than in the Source 1 Filmmaker, and yet with no significant disadvantages. I'll also mention for anyone interested, one of the filters is unreferenced by content. If you search only by objects which are unreferenced by content, then it shows you objects with no dependency on anything else. So you can search easily for materials and find materials which are not needed and can be deleted, since there are no models or maps which are referencing these materials, making it easy to find unnecessary bloat and scour it from your files. Ugh. What even is this? What? Well, I can try using this. Maybe it's some kind of strange text. It also, of course, comes fully stocked and loaded with all of the Life Alyx models and textures and maps, which can be freely and easily utilized for whatever purposes you require, while the Source 1 engine requires you to use only ports made by people on the workshop. The Source 1 Filmmaker is also rather slow, especially when it comes to loading in maps. We'll see if we try to load Train Station 02 from Half-Life 2. You can see the text change to loading, and we're sat here waiting. Oh, we have an error. Okay, well, you just take my word for it. It will take a couple of minutes. The Source 2 engine, on the other hand, loads maps pretty much instantly. We press accept, and there's a delay of a few seconds. Now, of course, bear in mind that this is a very high resolution map we're loading in, far more than the Half-Life 2 maps would have been. And it's all here pretty much instantly. As you can see down the bottom here, it's also warning us that our memory is at 5,400 megabytes. In Source 1 this would be a problem, since it's capped at 4 gigabytes of RAM. It would have crashed already if it tried to run this map, even with nothing on it. This is because the Source 1 Filmmaker is built on a 32-bit system. The Source 2, however, it's built on 64, giving it more leeway of the RAM capacity it can take up, allowing you to pump it full of more assets and particles and larger maps, more textures, and whatever else you would need without fearing it crashing and crumbling beneath you. Another and definitely very major advantage the Source 2 engine has, and the Source 2 Filmmaker, is the brand new Hammer editor, which, to be quite honest, is a godsend. Now, I've had experience inside of Blender, inside of 3ds Max, Unreal Engine, and also some experience with the Source 1 Hammer editor, and I can say that, to be quite honest, this is the best mapping tool I've ever used. Better still than Unreal Engine, which for the most part is designed to be a kind of decent mapping tool. It's very simple and quick and intuitive to use. You have a lot of freedom and mobility with all the different tools it gives you. You have easy texture alignment tools to modify and scale and rotate. You have special tools for doing various functions you'd only expect to see inside of a model editor, such as the ability to make subdivisions, which breaks down the model into smaller pieces, and bridges and merging and editing at the vertices with cuts and bevels to allow you to do all sorts of fun things. Definitely not available in the Source 1 Hammer. Another advantage, which I believe many old school Hammer editors will be happy to hear, is that you can easily just select a model and press F to turn it from an outside to an inside. Applying textures is as easy as dragging and dropping, in the correct tool rather, onto a face or a surface. Applying models from the asset browser is as easy as dragging and dropping, and seeing the model automatically snap to the floor or wall you attach it to. It compiles quicker, it looks better, the lighting engine is more refined. All in all, I would have to say the new Source 2 Hammer Editor is one of the best functions of the new Source Filmmaker, since of course, any map you make here can easily be built and exported to the Source Filmmaker engine. All you have to do is go to File and Build Map, and you don't even need to have baked lighting ticked, you don't need to have physics ticked, you don't need visibility or navigation. Maybe you do need visibility. I don't think so. You don't need audio. Most of these settings you can disable for a fast and efficient render. See here a somewhat accurate reincarnation of Kleiner's lab from Half-Life 2, built in a relatively short amount of time using the Source 2 hammer. Of course, ignore the wall of errors over here. And this leads us neatly on to one of the next advantages, which is the lighting engine. The lighting engine inside of the Source 1 Filmmaker is definitely limited. Clicking here, you have only one choice of light, a projected light. If we put here the camera and use this one to control the motion of the light, we can see that the projection light is simply a spotlight. You have a point in space which projects out light from it. And that's really the only choice you have. It can work, it does its job. It also has a volumetric setting for volumetrics. And it has a decent amount of settings for things like color and the strength of volumetrics and various other aspects. Some of these sliders I'm fairly sure don't actually do anything. As nice as it can look, that's the only choice you have. You're also, for the most part, stuck with the map lighting, which itself wouldn't be an issue, but the lighting it creates is baked onto the map. It's as though it's painted directly onto the textures without actually being a light source, meaning any object you place in the map isn't going to cast shadows. And the lack of shadows looks pretty bad. So what you'll usually have to do is, if you really want to, is find a plugin which removes the lights from a map, and then go about repopulating the map with your own lighting, which of course gives a far better result since all of the lights are dynamic, meaning they are able to properly interact with the environment around them, but of course takes time. And it's not at all helped by the fact that the Source 1 Filmmaker is limited only to 9 dynamic lights at once. And you see here the limitation of having only a spotlight means that we have one spotlight here to look out, and then if we want to create the effects we're after, we have to make another spotlight. Move it away and face it back towards, open it out to be brighter, move it back, turn the brightness down. It's a lot of steps just to try and create some element of realism. Now the Source 2 engine doesn't have this heinous limitation. See here we have this map from, well, I'm sure you recognize it. You don't need me to say exactly what. But if we come down into the special location, we see the lights already here in existence. But if we want to add more lights to our scene, we have now a whole collection. We have a projected light, which is similar to the Source 1. We have a spotlight, which is the one from Source 1. But we also have these new things. We have a point light, which itself creates lights looking in all directions at once. So in the example we had in Source 1, we simply would have needed one point light to distribute light evenly in all directions. We also have a directional light, which is a two-dimensional shape, a box. We also have here a directional light, which is a spotlight, not a spotlight, a sunlight. It is the light for the entire map. You see, moving it gives no difference, only rotating it, and rotating it changes everything on the entire map. And the largest benefit of this is if we activate shadows, it actually overrides the lighting of the whole map itself. As you can see, with it turned off, we have the lighting from the sun. Right now it's hidden. and the lighting from the sun, as you see, is casting shadows in a yellow tint. With it turned on, the lighting from the sun is disabled, as it uses only the light from this, which we can now rotate, get out of the shrubbery, which we can now rotate to give the impression of a different time of day. We can reduce the intensity, we can change the colour. We can give the scene a whole different atmosphere with this one simple light, while also overriding the default lighting of the map itself. This aside, we also have an orthographic light, which itself is a two-dimensional shape, which, if we show the light extents, we can see here. Now this box casts a shadow in a direct boxy shape, as you'd expect a box of light to do, in only one direction, as though looking from a two-dimensional flat surface, which can have its width and its height adjusted to suit whatever needs it needs to fill. Let's say, for example, this computer screen, we wanted it to display light from its surface. We could very easily stick it down to the correct size, and now it's glaring out light over there. I mean, it's not exactly realistic, but you get the idea. The point is, we have way more choice, the different lighting we have available for us. We can override the sunlight of the map itself, we can have point lights and directional lights and orthographic lights, all the while the lighting engine itself looking and feeling and behaving in a way far superior to in Source 1. Mix that with the superior rendering times and the ability to natively render in 4K. You can make the Source 1 Filmmaker render in 4K, but you need to go into some settings and modify them. So here it's natively accessible straight away. With all of these features clustered together, you can see many of the advantages of using the Source 2 Filmmaker over the Source 1. Of course, now we come to the issue of the disadvantages, one of which being that all of the assets are only belonging to Life Alyx. If you want to make use of Portal assets or Team Fortress or so on, you'll either have to find the various scripts and softwares and workarounds to convert these models yourself, or just wait long enough for someone to release it on the Life Alyx workshop. Aside from the Hammer editor, there's two other aspects of the Source 2 Filmmaker, or at least the Source 2 workshop tools, which are easily compatible with the Filmmaker, which allow it to stand out from Source 1. For instance, for anyone who's tried to make custom models or perhaps port over models from various games or other things into Source 1, you have discovered how tedious it can be having to write out a QC file or other documents or such other components necessary to add models to the Source Filmmaker. However, in Source 2, the model doc comes pre-made with a ton of different elements you can use to easily import your model. Most of these aren't needed for most instances of their being used, but there are a few which it relies on often. The exact nature of that is for another video. All you need to do is import the model, add it, and you can start working away adding animations and textures, and if you really want to, collision boxes and node graphs and anything else that the situation requires. All easily editable, built into the Source 2 engine itself, with the added advantage that it updates automatically whenever you restart the Source Filmmaker. Alongside with that is the material editor, which allows you to access a full range of different functions. The majority of these, they are available to you in Source 1, however they require you to know some amount of programming in order to properly use them. In here, however, it's all displayed in a nice, easy to follow user interface, allowing you to easily find whatever elements you require to use, modify them, see them updated nearly in real time, and streamline your workflow endlessly. Far more intuitive working this way than it is to rely on outside software for every little change you attempt to make, either to your materials or your models. Taking a look at some of the disadvantages this engine and this software has, one of the main complaints I'd have is that the software itself really hasn't changed that much since the Source 1 engine. It still suffers some of the same glitches and problems, some of the bad lighting issues that are embedded into maps, and various other issues from the Source 1 Filmmaker, which I believe could have been easily fixed, are still in existence in the Source 2 engine, simply because they do not appear to have much interest in really developing this software to be better than it was. Of course, the Source 2 engine is still far from being a perfect piece of software. It has glitches of its own. For one thing, I've found that playing and pausing using the spacebar, such as in Source 1, occasionally causes it to lag and glitch and be slow for a few moments. An issue which doesn't occur if you use the play button itself to play and pause. There is also some small amount of lag, sometimes, when trying to switch quickly between types of gizmo. You see here I press it, and I press the tool, and there's a delay. Of course you can't see the delay because you don't know when I'm clicking the key. This again, an issue which isn't because of the scene or because of the prop, because using the manual buttons down here never presents that issue when switching between gizmos. You see here the lag, except clicking down here, instantly the transition is flawless. Using the keyboard, there's this element of lag. Even if the lag is only for a small moment, it is enough to take you out of the flow of what you're doing. And for long animation projects, remaining in the flow is an important aspect of efficiency. You see here when I press the spacebar to begin playing the scene. It plays for a moment, then freezes, then unfreezes. All I'm doing is pressing the spacebar once, and yet you can quite clearly see that there is a pause after initially moving, whereas if I use this button, it's smoothly moves without lag or delay. Another issue this engine seems to have is that if you have one screen selected, hotkeys and so forth will not work on the other screen. In Source 1, it doesn't have an issue with using these kinds of hotkeys even if the windows are separated. But for this case, I suppose the issue is not. However, the software's newness is also one of its largest issues. Since, for one thing, the original Source engine has a long-standing and well-established workshop with a huge variety of assets which can be ported over easily to the software, even Gmod assets if you know the way. Furthermore, it shares compatibility with a great number of official Valve products, many of which have some content available as free DLC for the Source 1 Filmmaker. These are things which do not exist right now for Source 2. It also suffers from a lack of documentation. Being brand new, there is a decided absence of tutorials available, either written or in video, for how to properly use all of the elements of this software. The Filmmaker, the model editor, the material editor, and even the asset browser itself. A final advantage the Source 1 Filmmaker has over the Source 2 is the presence of a text-based editor, which allowed you to allow or disallow various folders from being used in the assets that are available. This is available simply by creating a folder structure with whatever assets you wish to use sorted into their respective folders in the correct folder structure. These folders then just have to be referenced inside of a text document found inside of S2FM's usermod directory. This, however, does not exist in the Source 2 engine. We are instead forced to use the working sets, which is a system of tags essentially, which has to be activated by going to View and ticking working sets. While this does its job in separating the various assets out, it does have its own issues, since if you want to, for instance, add a new folder of solely, for example, Portal contents, then how are you supposed to select all of the Portal assets if you already have a great deal of assets already activated. You can't choose to deactivate, for instance, the Half-Life 2 pack or the CSGO pack. They are all active at the same time and cannot be disabled or enabled at whim. In some small summary, we can come to see the various advantages and disadvantages of using Source 1 or Source 2. Both of them have their own functions, both have their own abilities and their drawbacks. Me personally, I'd say that whether you are a beginner to animation, just starting out on this treacherous path of learning and development, or if you are an experienced animator looking to broaden their horizons, either way, I would recommend looking into Source 2 for its advantages in reduced lag and stability and the overall quality the engine can experience. Source 2 has the better lighting engine, has the ability of accessing more RAM, has higher quality assets, and an easier workflow for creating and adding your own custom assets. However, of course, the Source 1 Filmmaker is completely free and comes with a great number of assets already created and ready to use, which in itself is a fair advantage. Wouldn't you agree, G-Man?